Very good.
Welcome, everybody, to Midas Letter RAW. James is down for the count, from what he told me. So I'm joined by Howard.
Hi, everyone. My name's Humble Howard. I'm here with Fraser, and apparently James has syphilis, which we all thought had been taken care of, but it's a reoccurring bout.
Yeah.
Ha ha, James.
Yeah. I think there was a little bit of gonorrhea in there, too.
Well, you know, here's the weird thing. I was here one day,
Yeah.
and then James is gone.
I know.
What is that?
I don't know. What kind of guy was like?
It's like, hey, he's
weird.
like, hey, come on in, get the feel for the place. And I get a note this morning. Oh, I'm not coming in. You're going to work with Fraser now. I'm like, I like Fraser.
Yeah.
I have one of my best friends is named Fraser. I didn't tell you that.
See, that's disappointing every time I learn I'm not the only person on the planet with the name. Yeah, but I like the name.
It could be worse. You could be Howard.
I love. You know what? I don't. You're the first Howard that I know.
Yeah.
But I've been a lifelong Howard Stern fan, so I've been waiting for the opportunity to be like Howard.
That's great. I enjoy when people tell me that. They go, "Oh, you're Howard," just like my favorite radio guy. I'm like, "Hey, thanks very much." Well, you're my second favorite, Fraser. And the reason you haven't met a Howard is because no one has named their kid Howard since 1960 when I was. Like Fraser's a cool name. What are your kids' names?
Daisy and Jade.
Daisy and Jade are great names for girls. My daughter's names are Charlie and Spencer. Cool names. No one names their kid Howard anymore.
Those are cool
unless you
names.
hate your children.
Those are great names, actually.
Well, so are Daisy and Jade.
Yeah.
By the way, the correct response, anytime anybody, for you young parents, anytime anybody asks you what your, when you ask somebody what their child's name is, there's only one correct response, and that is, that's a great name. Because I remember when my first daughter was born, her name is Charlie, it's not short for anything. I remember people would say, like, what kind of name is that for a little girl? I'm like, well, I don't know, what's your name? Bertha? Is that a better name for a little girl?
Yeah, that's rude, actually.
It is rude.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fraser.
Yes. Well, you know, it's that's what I'm here for.
What are you here for? Is the
well, that's
is that camera even working? Is that even? Am I even on?
That's the funny thing about this. Is
on this internet show?
I'm a film guy and you're a radio guy, and neither one of us knows much about investing other than our own dabblings here and there.
Well, that is true. Well, although I was explaining to Kelly, the lovely woman who is also producing this program, I said, you know, often people don't realize, or they wouldn't. Why would you? How much television I've done.
Yes.
Whether it was hosting Ed's Night Party on City or CBC television. But the funny thing is, I've always had a side hustle in production, in television and video production. And I will tell you, because you were just before we went there, you told me that you helped build all this. This is really impressive. And I mean that from every aspect. Like, not only, because I was here in October on the legalization day, and it was kind of cool. Like, I saw this production facility. I thought, these people know what they're doing. And now I realize that part of the reason is because of you.
Oh,
because your background helped build all this. Just take the compliment.
Okay, I'll take the. I'm giving him like $50 after the show. So.
No, unfortunately, that's not true.
Not like 50 would even do it.
Like, seriously, unfortunately, that's bullshit.
I know.
But I mean, I'm being sincere. Like, this is an impressive thing. Now, James aside, because he's not here with the gonorrhea and the syphilis. But I remember walking in here because I had a small production company as well. We did corporate videos and some low-end Canadian television. But you've done really quite a thing here. Like, just the level of professionalism amongst everybody is really, really impressive. Oh, well, so congratulations.
Clearly that has nothing to do with James or me, and we just happen to luck out because professionalism is not a word that's...
Well, yesterday doing the show with James, I realized right off the top when he started yelling at me, I'm like, I don't know if I can, he did that raw thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to get high for this show.
Speaking of getting high,
yes.
Have you ever Googled yourself? I'm learning so much. You know, even though you're sitting right there and I can just ask you, like,
have I Googled myself ever? Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Do I do it regularly? No.
Well, you know what? Because you've been on the show a couple times, you're hitting Midas Letter now.
Oh, am I?
Yes. But I see we talked a little bit. You spent some time in Montreal too. It's one of my favorite cities.
Mine as well. And you know, it's funny. I lived in Los Angeles, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal, and I started off in Moose Jaw. Yeah, there are Jews in Moose Jaw, people. Every city I've lived in was my favorite, but Montreal is a special place.
Yeah,
Montreal's not like living anywhere else.
No, it's I don't know what it is. It's just there's something special going on there.
Oh, I think it's the French people.
And yeah, well, maybe
it's really the French people are different.
that's
Did you grow up there? Is that where you're from?
No, I just spent 5 years there when I was going to university.
Did you go to McGill?
Yeah.
Are you a McGill guy?
Yeah.
I used to live about 6 blocks east of McGill. Well, they call it the McGill Ghetto, but the east end of Montreal kind of begins just as you get past. I love that neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's up on the Avenue de Pin, Park Avenue.
Park, yeah, that's one. Yeah, okay.
All right.
Cool.
How do you think it's going so far, by the way, hosting the show and stuff?
I don't know. I'm gonna probably think about it later over a few over a few tall glasses of hot whiskey in a bowl.
Your kids are how old? 3 and like 1 or something?
No, 2.5 and 3.5.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to find that time just for your Fraser time.
Yeah, when they're in bed,
yes.
Daddy gets drunk.
Yeah,
so
I can't wait for them to be old enough to see this. And this is why Daddy yelled when we were little.
Yeah. But back to you, Howard. You had
yes.
You had a stint in Seattle.
I dated a girl for a couple months.
And you liked her so much that you moved. You packed up all your stuff and moved to Seattle.
Well, what was it? I was doing stand-up. I was living in Los Angeles, doing a lot of stand-up in Vancouver and Victoria, and then I met her. Maybe she was in the audience at some show I was in.
Oh.
And then I just ended up spending that summer with her in Seattle.
Okay.
But
and you bought drugs there.
I bought a lot of drugs in different places.
See, to me, that's pretty. Well, you were there for enough time that maybe you knew a guy who could get you a little bit of weed. But
I did stand-up comedy full time for about 4 years in the middle '80s, and my thing was, you get me to a comedy club in any city, and I'll find you some drugs, because every doorman, bouncer, manager. I don't know how much more time we have. This is a true story.
We have all the time you want.
Perfect. I worked with this husband and wife comedy couple at a club in Seattle. And at the end of the week, I went in to get paid, and it was all cash. And I walked in inadvertently, and the manager was paying them in bags of cocaine, true story, and cash. And I walked in and went, I'll come right back. I'm like, I don't want that deal, I just want the money.
Oh, that's, yeah. I don't, what do you do? How do you handle that situation? Well,
when they were finished, I asked them if they would share any of it with me, because I couldn't afford it at the time. They were the headliners. I was the opener. Anyhow.
That makes sense.
Anyhow, young man.
Apparently,
you've got quite a show coming up, I understand.
Yeah, we do, and we'll dive into that right now. Coming up on today's show is we talked to Steve Wright, who is the CEO of HARV Health Recreation, which is an interesting company. They're actually huge, and I had no idea they existed, but apparently they're massive. Charting Man Dan, always a fan favorite. He's going to break down a whole bunch of charts. I talked to him for way too long. He was getting really annoyed about it. And you guys can throw some questions our way, and we likely won't even see it, but we're going to pretend that we're going to read them. And
yeah, I'd love to answer some complicated, intricate investing questions, because that'll be my claim to fame, that I literally know nothing about investing, but I'll have an answer for you if you need it.
Okay, cool. And then to round things off, we have a little story on supply and demand, which is a reoccurring issue that we keep talking about as it relates to cannabis and the amount of weed that these companies are growing, which is substantial. And then you go online and order it, and then maybe 3 weeks later you might get something, maybe.
Depends where you order it from.
Yeah. Cool. So right now, though, we have some news.
Okay.
But Howard, maybe.
Would you allow me?
Yeah. Would you do the honors, please?
Well, in the place of the syphilitic James West, here's our man Fraser with today's cannabis news.
Alimentation CoucheTard Inc., under the TSX symbol ATD.A and ATD.B, has entered into a multi-year agreement with Canopy Growth Corporation, trading on the TSX under weed and the NYSE CGC. CoucheTard is a variety store widely available throughout Quebec. Subsequent to this newly formed strategic partnership and pending the results of a public consultation process, CoucheTard will operate a Tweed-branded retail store in London, Ontario, once the process is complete. CoucheTard will have full ownership control over the London store. Canopy Growth Corporation also announced the appointment of Dr. Daniel Schecter as Director of Global Medical Services. Dr. Schecter is an expert in the clinical use of medical cannabis and will use his experience to expand the company's network of partner healthcare clinics and support doctors and patients who understand the value of cannabis as a medicine. Cronos Group Inc., NASDAQ, symbol CRON, and TSX CRON, announced at a special meeting held yesterday that the company's shareholders overwhelmingly approved the previously announced strategic investment agreement with Altria Group, NYSE, symbol MO, Altria. Pursuant to the agreement at closing, Altria will make an approximately $2.4 billion equity investment in Cronos on a private placement basis in exchange for common shares in the capital of the company. Aleafia Health Inc., trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol ALEF, has reported an update regarding its recent press release issued by Aura Health Inc. Although the company was solicited to participate in Aura's private placement, Aleafia Health is not negotiating a subscription agreement, nor has the company had the opportunity to perform due diligence or submit the participation to the TSX Venture Exchange for acceptance. At this time, Aleafia Health is not participating in the private placement. Amex Exploration Inc., trading on the TSX Venture under AMX, announced the completion of the previously announced non-brokered private placement in the amount of $5.4 million. In connection with the offering, 7.256 million units, each priced at 75 cents, were issued. Each unit consists of one common share and one half of one common share purchase warrant, having an exercise price of $1.25 and a term of 18 months. Radient Technologies Inc., trading on the TSX Venture under RTI, announced it has filed an additional 17 provisional patent applications with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. These applications cover inventions related to novel and improved methods and systems of consuming cannabis extracts and cannabis-infused products. These filings bring the total number of patent applications filed by the company in 2018 and 2019 to 60. There's the news, folks.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com.
Thanks. Well, hello, everybody.
We're just talking about James right now. Pretty good guy.
Yeah. Aside from the different array of diseases, A through Z.
Yeah, we just got a text from James, and apparently his typhoid has reoccurred. And Godspeed to you, sweet man.
Yes, he actually one time said I had the dengue virus. We went to Colombia together, and I had a little bit of the case of eating salad with maybe too much water in it or something. You know, I'm sure you can picture what.
Listen, I'm a medical man. You're talking about diarrhea.
Well, you know, and more or less.
Yeah.
But it's actually a condition. It's not just like, oh, I have one little bout and I'm good. It's like,
no, you're there
for days.
It's a full-time gig. You know, I dated this, at another time in my life, I dated this woman that lived in Mexico City. And I used to go visit her. When I lived in Los Angeles, I would go visit her, and I'd spend a couple weeks in Mexico. And I'd go down there multiple times and almost never got sick. I thought, oh, maybe I'm immune to this. And then I got sick once. And that was like you said, like it was kept reoccurring for about 3 or 4 days.
You're still paying for it. There's still...
seriously. At one point I remember thinking, I am now getting rid of everything I've ever eaten in my life.
Yeah. It's almost like you eat something and then it's like there's little fish that are eating it before you get a chance to get the nutrients from it.
Yeah, and not to be too graphic, but you look and you think, wait a second, I think I ate that in grade 6. Anyway, thanks for having me here. My name's Howard. This is Fraser. He seems like a great guy. And this is, we're supposed to be talking about cannabis-related
That's right.
investing and cannabis-related items.
Who cares?
I know. But you have this idea that the Oscar gift bags this year are going to include some cannabis products.
Yes, and our people here have put together, Liz West has contacted the gentleman who's been doing the Oscar gift bags for years and years and years. And on Monday, they're going to do a thing, which is probably going to translate to video that's rolled so everyone can see
they're going to do
what
a
happens.
thing.
They're going to do a thing.
Don't be so nebulous here, Mark.
Yeah.
So this brings us to the Oscar nominations. And by the way, does anyone know when the Oscars are being broadcast? Is it this weekend?
I'm not going to watch it.
But is it this weekend?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. But I want to know the winners, and that's what I told you off camera.
Okay. Well, I've seen. It's funny. I didn't realize I had seen every one of the Oscar-nominated pictures except for this one, Roma. But if I'm not mistaken, Roma's a Netflix picture, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but they gave it a theatrical release.
Okay, to get it Oscar.
Yes,
okay.
and that is directed by the cinematographer that worked with the Birdman film, I think. Which
I just saw for the first time. Great movie, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Birdman.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton guy.
Yeah, and DiCaprio up in the wilderness with the snow.
Scorsese?
No. In the snow.
This is the
Revenant.
Worst.
The Revenant.
Yes.
So
what about it?
that duo.
Oh, that guy.
But the cinematographer.
People. Yes.
So he's directing. He's directing it and doing the DOP work for it. Okay. So, but on this list, though, I want to see Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody's. Bohemian Rhapsody probably #1 for me.
Seen it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The guy Rami Malek, amazing. Saw Black Klansman.
Yeah.
Also great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, really good. Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Black Panther, saw it, loved it.
See, this is where I was gonna say, could that really win Best Picture?
No.
I kind of don't want it to, because there's movies that aren't on this list. So, for example,
what do you mean you kind of don't want it to? Why don't you want to?
Because I'm prejudiced against panthers.
Really? What kind of animal is this? What I just found out about Fraser liked the movie, but he would like it to be about something other than panthers.
Yes. No, I mean, see, now I'm going to look stupid because I don't even know if it qualifies, but because of the year, I was on a flight and I watched Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot with Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay.
And Jonah Hill and Jack Black, and it was fantastic. But
never heard of it.
Well,
Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot?
Yes.
Cool.
But I don't, a movie like that might not get a chance to sniff the Oscars because it's not about what movies.
Well, it's not about popularity.
It is about popularity.
Not popularity in terms of box office.
Well, I think there's a baseline popularity.
Okay.
Yeah.
But usually, in other years at the Oscars, it's like some movie you've never heard of gets nominated and wins. In this particular case, though, and I just saw The Green Book recently, Viggo Mortensen, unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I've seen Vice and I've seen A Star Is Born. So of the ones I've seen, 7 of the 8, I'll tell you which one I think you should see that is remarkable, and that's tied. Black Klansman and Green Book are both amazing movies. Vice is also very good, and I think that Rami Malek will win for Best Actor, but I think that the best movie is going to go to either The Black Klansman or Vice. This is what I'm saying.
Nice. In Bohemian Rhapsody, did they smoke weed in it?
They did every drug that was ever. Freddie Mercury in that movie is hoovering every drug that was ever invented.
This is why I wanted to talk to you about Montreal, to tie it in with Bohemian Rhapsody. One of the best musical performances I've seen that you can watch, you can download, you can whatever, is Queen Rocks Montreal in 1981. And
really?
It's the first time, it's shot incredibly well on film, 6 different camera angles. It's the first time Queen performed Bohemian Rhapsody live.
Amazing.
And maybe the only time. And if it isn't, I'm just going to stick with that because the facts don't matter.
No, obviously they don't.
No.
If people were looking for facts, they wouldn't be watching this now. I will tell you, in the movie, sort of the climax, whatever, of the film is when Queen performs at Live Aid in 1985 in front of millions of people around the world. And it really was not only a great moment in the film, but I went back and watched it. You can, go and watch it on YouTube. It really was something else.
I would say Queen was better live than recording. Like, they are incredible live.
Is that what you would say?
I did say it.
You just said it now.
I can repeat it if you want.
So this is your opinion that they were a better live band than recording. I don't know what that means. I mean, you think about like Bohemian Rhapsody, the record itself is pretty special. When you consider how it was made technologically, like it was made an old analog tape. It wasn't. There's no digital overlay. They had to keep mixing and mixing and mixing. It really was a sort of a technological breakthrough in terms of the kind of technological breakthrough that was. Now, you know what? Here's the funny thing.
I was following. I was like, you're going to say something.
Halfway through that sentence, I just got bored of it. Like literally, you could go back and watch it. I literally got bored in the middle of that explanation. I got bored with myself.
I saw a blankness take over.
No, it was just, you know what it was? It was like, I don't even care about what I'm saying. Like, I'm going down this road. I don't care about any of it.
Okay.
I want to talk about weed. Okay. When does the weed chat begin on this thing?
It's going to start right now because we did talk to Harvest Health, okay?
Yes.
Harvest Health and Recreation. We talked to the CEO. This is a company that caught me by surprise because they're massive. They're massive. They're so massive that you're going to find out.
Harvest Health, a lot of people think they're better live than they are on recording.
But there's technological advances.
Technological.
Just roll it.
Now I'm giving.
Harvest Health and Recreation is a vertically integrated cannabis company with one of the largest footprints in the U.S. It includes cultivation, manufacturing, and retail facilities, construction, real estate, technology, and operational expertise. The company now has licenses in 8 states, with planned expansion into additional states by 2020. Harvest Health Recreation trades on the CSE under the ticker HARV.
Joining me now is Steve Wright, who's the CEO of Harvest Health and Recreation Inc. They trade on the CSE under the symbol HARV, H-A-R-V. Steve, how's it going?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah, we haven't had you guys on before, so we're going to give people a little bit of an idea of what Harvest Health and Recreation is all about. The first thing that jumped out at me is you guys have been ranked as the 3rd largest cultivator in the U.S. of cannabis.
I did see that. That was a publication that measured people's cumulative square footage. Not sure if it's accurate or not, but that was the conclusion that they came to.
That's fine. But so just to give people an idea, what is your square footage that you're cultivating? Is it spread out? How does that work for your company?
It's spread out all over the United States, and so we measure it. We have outdoor, we have light deprivation greenhouse, and we have indoor cultivation in multiple states. We actually have a total of 32 U.S. licenses to cultivate cannabis. So we've got projects ongoing all over the place.
Yeah, and another bullet point here that jumped out at me is 140 facilities across the U.S. So is that sort of cultivation, some of it's dedicated for other business activities?
Yeah, that's a total number of licenses to have facilities across the U.S. So that would include licenses. We have over 80 licenses, over 85 licenses for retail. We have over 30 licenses for cultivation. We've got over 25 licenses for production, and we've got a few distribution licenses in California as well.
Okay, great. And what would you say, comparison to other multi-state operators, which is sort of the buzzword now, what kind of separates you guys from the pack?
A lot of things, actually. First and foremost is the way that we have acquired all of those licenses. Up until this summer, we as a company didn't raise much money, and so we got into 9 states with a total amount of invested capital of only $18 million. Anybody at the time who had a comparable footprint would have spent at least 10 times that to get there. So we've been really good stewards of capital. We've been able to do that because we've developed an expertise in competitive application processes, and we've been consistently profitable as a company. which is something that's unique in U.S. cannabis, actually cannabis anywhere.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty impressive. Just looking at your last couple of press releases, you opened recently on the 12th of February, first dispensary in Florida. So that's ramping up the competition. There's some large operators there as well.
Yeah, most of the large U.S. operators do have a license in Florida. I think there's only one that isn't there yet. So that's going to be an interesting battleground for years to come. Give you a really good idea of how well and how effective the different MSOs operate.
Yeah, and again on the 12th, I can see you opened your 9th dispensary in Arizona, which is sort of your home state, I guess is the way to put it. Is that you started out as a company there because that's just where you're from, or how did that come about?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was in 2010. Arizona passed a medical marijuana law, and me and a couple of guys saw an opportunity, and we sought out to try to get a license in Arizona. We ended up getting 2, and since that time started to see states pass medical marijuana laws and saw an opportunity that we didn't think we could pass up. So we got very good at growing as a company. Not growing the cannabis, but actually growing our footprint.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, would you be able to speak to the share structure of your company, just so investors have an idea of what that looks like?
So the bulk of our shares are held by insiders, which is, I've actually heard recently people be critical of that, which I think is quite odd because the decision makers in our company are directly aligned with anybody who buys shares. So when we make decisions, there's no question that those decisions are being made in the best interest of shareholders. And it's somewhere in the neighborhood of, I believe, just over 80% is held by insiders. Because we didn't raise money a lot, we didn't take a lot of dilution going into our RTO that we did in November.
Yeah, no, nobody over here would complain about 80% ownership, that's for sure. In fact, that's something we constantly look for in people that we're interviewing, because to us that's a value add for sure. Let's move to you. On Valentine's Day, acquired California's Falcon International Corp. Was that a sweetheart deal?
Nice. It was it was a sweetheart deal, and it was one that we've been working on for so many months. It feels like the culmination of a lot of efforts. When we did our roadshow in October, we told people that we were going to acquire a company that has demonstrated success in distribution and manufacturing in California so that we could ramp that up for harvest and get some of our brands into the state of California, which we think is critically important. We were hoping that acquisition would be Falcon. And so we would consider it a sweetheart deal because of how important it is for the development in California and harvest generally.
Yeah, and I mean, I've mentioned this a number of times. You mentioned California is a critical state to be in and thrive in. It seems every week we're seeing headlines about other states either decriminalizing or there's medical now or rec. What's your strategy for the rest of the year, and how do you feel things are going in terms of on the federal level? How will that affect your business operations?
The biggest catalyst for U.S. stocks, I think, that we've ever seen is probably going to be the passage of the STATES Act. And what it does for us is a couple of things that people often talk about, which is alleviate some of our federal tax burden and provide easier banking access or traditional banking services for our businesses. But what people aren't talking about enough is how much U.S. institutional capital is not able to play U.S. cannabis. And so with the passage of the STATES Act, you're going to see that as a catalyst for the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ to permit its listed companies to invest into something that is no longer federally illegal. It is in states that don't, it would be in states that don't choose to regulate, but the investments that those companies would be looking to make and that the different U.S. institutional capital would be looking to make would be in companies that only operate where states choose to regulate.
Right. No, that seems critically important. Looking out through the rest of the year, what are some milestones that the company's looking to achieve, or what can investors use as sort of a yardstick to determine if Harvest Health is executing?
So obviously, execution ultimately comes down to a question about earnings. But there is a foundational element to not just earnings this year, but earnings far into the future. That foundation will be the development of a very extensive retail footprint across the U.S. So you will see us continue to build that retail footprint. In addition to that, you did see us acquire a company, CBX, the parent company to Evo Labs in Colorado. So you will see us start to produce the products developed by that company along with the brands that we had going into it and spreading them across that footprint, that national footprint. And so with the Falcon acquisition, obviously you see some of the development of the infrastructure for the manufacturing and for the distribution. That CBX acquisition provides us with a number of the products that we're looking to produce across the country. Now it is up to us to continue to develop the leading footprint in the U.S.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Steve. That's a great introduction to the company. I'm certainly going to look into it a little bit deeper, and I'm sure our viewers enjoyed seeing you on the show. So thanks again, and we'd love to have you back in quarter's time and see what else is new.
That sounds great. Be glad to come back, and appreciate you having me.
Great. Thank you. Cheers.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
Hey, we're with Charting Man Dan, once again, one of our very most popular guests, actually. Maybe not as popular as Cam Batley or something, but close. Everybody likes these chart breakdowns. So Dan, thanks for joining us again.
Glad to be here.
Awesome, yeah. So we were just chatting a bit off air. I wouldn't mind kicking this off with, you had mentioned you'd made this observation as well. It seems to be like things are breaking away from canopy up, canopy down, everybody down for at least the last little while. So why don't you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's an important observation. We've obviously noticed the correlation significantly in the past where everybody's doing the same thing. And it seems like money's shifting around in the sector these days where, people are hopping around. They'll hop on one name and run some momentum while other names are pulling back, and then they'll jump around to other names. So it's a lot more of a fluid environment in terms of where capital is going. And as traders, that's ideal for us because, if everybody's doing the same thing, we pick our names and that's that. But in this scenario, we can be jumping from different names because everybody has a bit of a different setup and everybody, some names are seeing oversold bounces and some names are breaking out. So there's all different kinds of setup styles depending on what your preference is. And that's my favorite environment to be in. A little bit hectic to keep up with, but, if you can get beyond that, there's some great opportunity out there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, instead of, your job is like 100 times harder because if everybody has to be analyzed on their own terms, it's gets a little bit more tricky to follow all the names, or maybe you just follow less of them, I guess. So, yeah.
I was just going to say it's definitely the videos that I make these days are a half an hour long, the end of the day videos. And you're right. It used to be, go over CGC and then I just run right through everybody else because it's same setup, same setup, same setup. But that has definitely changed the past week or two.
Yeah. And when did you first see that and how confident are you that it's going to continue? So I'm just asking because clearly there is some type of a break. I wonder why that is the case, and then if we can sort of expect that to moving forward.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's definitely the videos that I make these days are a half an hour long, the end of the day videos. And you're right, it used to be, go over CGC and then I just run right through everybody else because it's same setup, same setup, same setup. But that has definitely changed the past week or two.
Yeah, and when did you first
Well, I started to notice it at the end of last week, and then this week it was, okay, very clearly that's what's going on. And I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really big big percentage gains. You know, they're running in blue sky breakout, and that's the ideal scenario for traders. So money recognizes these smaller cap names that have bigger percentage risk and reward scenarios, and they're jumping in on those, as opposed to, you know, CGC, which requires way more capital in terms of getting a 5% move. You know, you need hundreds of millions of dollars, whereas these smaller names, you know, if you get $100 million, they're going to run hundreds of percent. So I think it's just people jumping on opportunity and trying to find who the next big runner is and who's at a discount in the space. And I think that's why some people, you know, the long-term safe bet, CGC, absolutely, but short-term, there's better opportunity in other places.
Yeah, and that brings us to a similar point, which is, you know, we're winding down February now. And for you, you've noticed a trend over the last, well, quite long time. And that's sort of the, as James says, sell in May and go away or something like that. But essentially, you're going to be looking for a bit of a sell-off, or moving into kind of that April-May zone. Is that right?
Yeah, there's definitely a seasonality trend in the MJ sector. I've been trading marijuana stock since 2010, and that's the whole reason I got interested in trading, was industrial hemp and CBD. And there were only U.S. penny stocks back then, and those companies now at this point are a bit of a joke compared to, you know, the legitimate companies. And I can remember back then saying, I can't wait till we have legitimate companies on legitimate exchanges, and here we are. But in the last 9 years, there is a very, very clear seasonality pattern on those names, where you see a run-up in the fall and into the new year. Some of that has to do with voting season in November, and some of that has to do with the new year being when laws get enacted. There was a huge run-up when Colorado and Washington had their first day of sales, but we see a sell-off in the summer. And in the penny stock sector back in those days, 2010 through 2014, you just stopped trading during, you know, March, April, May, June, or you're just going to get money back. It was a very, very difficult environment to trade in. And we're seeing in the Canadian MJ space, a couple times it's lined up, but it's not a clear pattern. And if anybody's going to break that pattern, it would be the legitimate names in the Canadian sector. So I'm very aware of this seasonality, and it's this kind of scenario where, as I head into March, April, May this year, I'm going to be anticipating consolidation, and it's going to be up to the bulls to prove to me that they are breaking that correlation that we've seen for so many years in the MJ sector.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting to me, but also the fact that, you know, when you look at the states, almost every week you see a new headline about, well, this state's doing this and that state's decriminalizing, and medical here and medical there. So I think, you know, as things move forward, it might get a little less predictable. There might be more money flying around too. Is that, are you looking at that too?
Absolutely. And if it's going to break that seasonality, you know, now's the time when it's going to happen in the next couple of years. And that is a steady news flow cycle that is keeping a little bit of hype, a little bit of momentum. Everybody's just on their edge of their seat, waiting for the U.S. to start to change some laws. And really, it's going to start with descheduling, because once you deschedule, then you can get the banking sector involved. Right now, I watched the banking hearing fairly recently. It might have been less than a week ago, and they said pretty much like, yeah, you know, this we need changes, but until it's descheduled, we can't go against federal law. So that's step number one to really start opening the floodgates.
Great. Okay, well, why don't we take a look at some of the charts of the seasonality that you were just referring to. One thing, though, I find it amazing that, you know, it's 2019, you're trading in 2010 U.S. penny stocks, and it's where it's the Wild West and a lot of bad stuff goes down, but you have a constant company that's been hanging around since then that you can show that long of a chart for?
Oh yeah, I've got, you know, 6 or 8 of them. Like I said, share structure and debt structure is not ideal. Dilution plenty, but they've been around, and they make their 100% bull move in January, February, and then they pull back 40%, and then they do it again next year. So it was a cash cow. And as I was learning to trade in that environment, I really, you know, lucked out, because I had no idea what I was doing, just like everybody else who starts trading. And I walked into that bullish environment. So it kind of kept me afloat and, was very forgiving of me not knowing what I was doing to allow me to profit and build capital and then realize I need to learn a whole lot more if I'm actually going to do this. And yeah, these stocks are still around, still kicking, but
so I guess they're
kind of...
No, but I mean, they're legitimate in one sense that they're still there. I mean, they must be an operating business, so...
yeah, and they haven't been shut down by the government, which was another important thing to be watching.
Cool. So let's get to it and take a look at that over some of these longer time frames. So what are we looking at there, Dan?
Well, here we've got MJNA, and this is a penny stock in the U.S. space. It's been around since about 2009. This is the first stock that I ever bought or ever traded before I had any idea what I was doing. And I was back around here in about 2010, the end of 2010. So I just want to talk about the seasonality in how predictable this was in this ticker, where we can see, right here heading into the new year, we get this pop in 2011. And these pops are, 500 to 1,000% moves in 1 or 2 months.
Wow.
So we had that big pop in January of 2011, and that was actually just after maybe February there. So then the start of the new year.
That's going from 2 cents to 23 cents? Or something like that? Yep. 3 cents? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Wow. Yeah.
And then here in the low of the end of December 2011, we shot up 1,000% in February 2012. And then from that point, we consolidated. So again, all these periods of consolidation are in the summer. And here we had another run up into the new year where we ran to 50 cents. So essentially from the end of 2011 to the start of 2013, there were gains of 4,000 to 5,000%. Then we consolidate again in the summer. Here we go heading into the new year of 2013, heading into 2014, another big pop. Then we consolidate and we miss a year. 2015 did not see a bull move for the new year. That was an anomaly. Then here's your bull move in 2016, a little bit sooner because we had votes for legalization that had the run happen in October, November instead of January. And then here we are in 2017 to start the new year. And here we are starting the new year of 2019. And we're not really seeing that strength. And a reason for that would be traders like myself, who normally were all over this market, could care less about this market at this point because we have liquidity and legitimacy in the Canadian MJ space as well as higher exchanges. So just going over that seasonality, very clear. New Year runs summer consolidation, and we compare it to CGC. And this is the monthly time frame where every candlestick is 1 month. And I'm just going to be looking at pretty much 2016 onward because that's when we really got the bull move and really started to capture some attention. And we had 1 year in 2017 where we did see this summer consolidation. Here's our February bull move, and then we consolidated March, April, and May. And then last year in the summer didn't really get as much consolidation, and that's the kind of scenario where heading into the first day of sales and all the votes and everything, that was keeping things propped up a little bit. And so it's again looking at just a small sample size of CGC, I can say, okay, pretty much half the time, 1 year, we did see the summer consolidation. The other year, not really so much. So this year, I'm going to be paying close attention. I'm going to anticipate that we're likely going to see some summer consolidation. And it's going to be, like I said, up to the bulls to prove to me, nope, we still have strength and we're going to see continuation. But the way this monthly chart looks, it certainly looks like we saw a big bull move to form a lower high compared to the all-time high. And we may need to consolidate to form a higher low and see this range tighten up. And the other point in keeping this all in mind is that the S&P 500 here on the weekly chart has been an absolute vacuum of a bullish environment. So the last 9 weeks of trading in the MJ space, it's almost lulled us into a sense of complacency where we're just taking it for granted that the market is bullish because it's been bullish every single day for the last every single week for the last 9 weeks. So we have to remember that if we do see some S&P 500 consolidation into the spring and summer, even if it's just, a few weeks of pullback, that, in my opinion, is only going to further the narrative that we do see some summer consolidation. So it's something we're keeping an eye out for and going to be prepared for and taking it one day at a time as always.
I just feel like December was so brutal that a lot of people are sort of just looking to get back where we were before the brutality started.
Yeah, that was definitely a flush.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I don't know if it's even a potential scenario where you have a pullback that's that drastic where that could maybe cancel out the potential seasonality because it's sort of an unexpected event.
Yeah,
at least
it
for
could
me.
definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that coming, how bad it was going to be, but
No, absolutely not. We saw the pullback coming, but certainly could not anticipate it would be that extended. But you have to keep in mind that we did just run, 80 to 85% in less than 3 months. So I do believe that we need to level out a little bit. When you see crazy volatility, equilibrium patterns are the most likely scenario, and that's your tightening range where you have the high, the low of the dump, watching the lower high being set. And here on the weekly time frame, now that we are seeing consolidation, we're going to be looking for a weekly higher low to form and for this tightening range to continue to tighten up through most of 2019, in my opinion. Of course, any kind of news can potentially shift that, but without that news, I am going to be looking for a pullback and a weekly higher low and a continued tightening range.
Cool. So yeah, I was going to look into your penny stock, but after what you said before, I guess it's not really worth it anymore. Which kind of brings me to a point I wanted to ask you is, you're very strong with technical analysis and charts, but because there's so many names out there, what entices you to put the effort in and continue the effort on certain names? How do you kind of learn about them and pick them and stick with them in terms of watching what the TA is doing?
So it was easy a while ago when there were limited number of names and liquidity was a huge, hurdle that a name had to be liquid enough and have a good amount of dollar volume for me to want to cover it. But these days, liquidity and volume is aplenty everywhere. So really it goes to my audience and to the members of our chat room and the chart guys, where if, a lot of people are interested in a certain name, I'm certainly going to be covering that. And usually the interest from them derives from the fundamentals as well as the technical setup. So, if you have a name like VFF, Village Farms, who gets an upgrading to uplist on the NYSE, and they're in blue sky breakout, those are two, that's fundamental aligning with technical to give you the perfect storm for bullish gains. So in a scenario like that, it's interest picking up. More people are asking about the ticker. It's, people keep asking me every day about the same ticker. I'm going to start paying attention to it a lot more. So it's almost like a social metric where it's the collective of a group of people interested in this sector that are coming at me, with certain tickers that they're interested in. And then that leads to interest in me to cover those names.
Cool. Well, can we see that blue sky example? Because for me, it's sort of like, it's great when you see that, but if you weren't already there, you always have this feeling of like, it's got to be too late to jump in. With Canopy, that happened to me several times, where you think the gains have all been made, so you don't jump in. And really what ends up happening sometimes is that you leave a ton of potential profits on the table.
Absolutely. And that's, the trademark of blue sky breakouts is they usually run way more than you think they will. And that's actually why I got involved in the cryptocurrency space in 2017, knowing nothing about it. I saw the charts are in blue sky breakout. I know what that means. And that was enough to coax me to get involved in that space. But here on VFF, so yeah, 980 was the blue sky breakout level. We've surged through that. And it's really just being comfortable with shorter term patterns that can allow you to get into moves that you might otherwise feel are overextended. So here we had, we already saw a huge surge of 100% move over a few weeks or a month here, but we had this equilibrium pattern that I just mentioned, the tightening range. So after a lot of volatility, we had the high, the low, a double top right at resistance, another higher low, a lower high. It just got tighter and tighter and tighter. So we were very confident playing that bull break, knowing that we're likely going to see follow through because a lot of other traders just like us are going to be looking to jump into this name on that bull break as it approaches that all-time high. And then since then, it's been, nothing but strength. So it's being comfortable with these patterns and knowing, putting in stop losses to protect yourself in case you are wrong and, you don't want to be buying the top and then just holding a bag. But if you're using a stop loss to have some risk mitigation and you're comfortable with these patterns, then it's easy to jump in what otherwise might feel as too late. And KHRN is another one here where I've only been starting to keep an eye on this one the past couple of weeks, but it's just blue sky breakout. And the last time I was on, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago talking with James, I was highlighting how CRON had the most attention for us because it was blue sky breakout, and we know what that means. And we saw what CRON did, and now we're seeing what these smaller names are doing as the volume just surges in because all these traders recognize blue sky breakout. That means there's a nice opportunity for some significant gains.
Is that first massive green candle the signal for you? So there's a bunch of small ones, and then that first big one, is that where a lot of traders would jump in? That one, yeah. Yeah,
I mean the all-time high broke at 207, so breaking that on 207, that's the surge in volume. Everybody's saying, all right, blue sky breakout, let's do it. Let's look on the daily time frame and see we had that run right up to resistance. And then just, increasing bull volume and big time follow through. And then here's that tightening range again, the tightening pattern. We had the high of the big bull move. We pulled back and formed our support level. We tried to bounce. We formed a lower high. We pulled back. We formed a higher low. So it's just this tightening range that gets the bull break. And then there's another surge, the new all-time high. You can just see every time we hit an all-time high, there's a huge volume surge and a big push up.
And that's each candle is a day there? Is that what we're seeing?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that was what was the breakout day for this one? That was just a few days ago. Oh yeah, that's right.
4 days ago. So this was Tuesday. Was the big follow through move.
Yeah. Wow.
So other names that we want to be paying attention to, knowing how powerful blue sky breakout is OGI. Is definitely one of them. The all-time high is 855. We're currently sitting about 10% below that level. So again, just scouting out and keeping an eye out in case the bulls make their way up to that resistance level, because if it breaks, we would anticipate a big volume surge and a nice push of follow through. And another one in the US space is Curaleaf. This is the weekly time frame. We had the all-time high, we set the all-time low, and we got close to the all-time high here. This is actually a cup and handle pattern that we're keeping an eye on, where we have the left side of resistance, then we get our nice consolidation for the cup. We have the inability to break resistance, which leads to consolidation. And as long as this consolidation stays in this healthy little channel, which is what the handle of the cup and handle pattern is. So if we can just stay some healthy weekly consolidation and then try and break out, that's a pattern that we're looking for. And if you hop on Google and check out cup and handle pattern, you can get some more information on that setup.
Mm-hmm. And is seeing other companies having the breakout sort of motivate you to look for that potential in others, or does it not work that way? So in other words, like...
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah, so you see one and then you can sort of expect more to follow that?
It's all human psychology.
Yeah, so you're looking more for the breakout now than you would have been earlier. Exactly. Because... Okay, cool. Huh.
Because VFF and because KHRN and because all these names are running, and people are just like I said, traders like myself are just jumping to the strongest names, and it's all human psychology. So if we see names running to all-time highs and we see, oh man, look at all those gains on that ticker, that's the collective of traders saying, wow, there's a lot of bull money moving in this market, there's a lot of profit. And then you anticipate that, if VFF's going to go up 100%, there's a lot of capital that traders are accruing, and when they sell, they're going to have more capital to trade with, and they're going to want to put it to work somewhere else. So that's absolutely something that we look for. And it's going on with TRST right now, because it's a similar setup where we had VFF with the uplisting, and now we have TRST getting the same news of their uplisting as well. So VFF, the first day of uplisting, which was yesterday, was up 15% up at the high. So now the TRST bulls are saying, well, wait a minute, if VFF's going to go 15% on its first day of listing on the major exchange, that first day for TRST is this coming Monday. So that's going to be psychologically a reason that bulls are going to hold on longer, be less likely to take profit, and shorts certainly aren't going to want to jump in at this point. And it's, again, like you said, it's looking at the other name and saying, okay, this was a similar scenario, and anticipating that scenario to potentially play out in another name that has a similar setup.
Yeah, and even if the stocks don't behave similarly up until that point, as you were saying, it is just sort of collectively people looking for the next, like, oh, this one's lining up nice, let's jump on that one.
Yeah, and again, like I mentioned, the cryptocurrency space, it was rampant when that was its euphoria frenzy. Everybody was just jumping from one name to the next. Who's the next major runner? Where are the next significant gains. And like I said, it's just that.
Enjoying the show, everybody.
Talking with James, I was highlighting how CRON had the most attention for us because it was blue sky breakout, and we know what that means. And we saw what CRON did, and now we're seeing what these smaller names are doing as the volume just surges in because all these traders recognize blue sky breakout. That means there's a nice opportunity for some significant gains.
Is that first massive green candle the signal for you? So there's a bunch of small ones, and then that first big one, is that where a lot of traders would jump in? That one, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, the all-time high broke at 207, so breaking that on 207, that's the surge in volume. Everybody's saying, all right, blue sky breakout, let's do it. Let's look on the daily time frame and see we had that run right up to resistance, and then just, increasing bull volume and big time follow through. And then here's that tightening range again, the tightening pattern. We had the high of the big bull move. We pulled back and formed our support level. We tried to bounce. We formed a lower high. We pulled back. We formed a higher low. So it's just this tightening range that gets the bull break. And then there's another surge, the new all-time high. You can just see every time we hit an all-time high, there's a huge volume surge and a big push up.
And that's each candle is a day there? Is that what we're seeing?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that was, what was the breakout day for this one? That was just a few days ago. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 4 days ago. So this was Tuesday, was the big follow-through move.
Yeah. Wow.
So other names that we want to be paying attention to, knowing how powerful blue sky breakout is OGI is definitely one of them. The all-time high is 855. We're currently sitting about 10% below that level. So again, just scouting out and keeping an eye out in case the bulls make their way up to that resistance level, because if it breaks, we would anticipate a big volume surge and a nice push of follow-through. And another one in the U.S. space is Curaleaf. This is the weekly time frame. We had the all-time high, we set the all-time low, and we got close to the all-time high here. This is actually a cup and handle pattern that we're keeping an eye on, where we have the left side of resistance, then we get our nice consolidation for the cup. We have the inability to break resistance, which leads to consolidation. And as long as this consolidation stays in this healthy little channel, which is what the handle of the cup and handle pattern is. So if we can just stay some healthy weekly consolidation and then try and break out, that's a pattern that we're looking for. And if you hop on Google and check out cup and handle pattern, you can get some more information on that setup.
Mm-hmm. And is seeing other companies having the breakout sort of motivate you to look for that potential in others, or does it not work that way? So in other words, like...
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah, so you see one and then you can sort of expect more to follow that?
It's all human psychology.
Yeah, so you're looking more for the breakout now than you would have been earlier. Exactly. Because... Okay, cool. Huh.
Because VFF and because KHRN and because all these names are running, and people are just, like I said, traders like myself are just jumping to the strongest names, and it's all human psychology. So if we see names running to all-time highs and we see, oh man, look at all those gains on that ticker, that's the collective of traders saying, wow, there's a lot of bull money moving in this market, there's a lot of profit. And then you anticipate that, if VFF's going to go up 100%, there's a lot of capital that traders are accruing, and when they sell, they're going to have more capital to trade with, and they're going to want to put it to work somewhere else. So that's absolutely something that we look for. And it's going on with TRST right now, because it's a similar setup where we had VFF with the uplisting, and now we have TRST getting the same news of their uplisting as well. So VFF, the first day of uplisting, which was yesterday, was up 15% up at the high. So now the TRST bulls are saying, well, wait a minute, if VFF's going to go 15% on its first day of listing on the major exchange, that first day for TRST is this coming Monday. So that's going to be psychologically a reason that bulls are going to hold on longer, be less likely to take profit, and shorts certainly aren't going to want to jump in at this point. And it's, again, like you said, it's looking at the other name and saying, okay, this was a similar scenario, and anticipating that scenario to potentially play out in another name that has a similar setup.
Yeah, and even if the stocks don't behave similarly up until that point, as you were saying, it is just sort of collectively people looking for the next, like, oh, this one's lining up nice, let's jump on that one.
Yeah, and again, like I mentioned, the cryptocurrency space, it was rampant when that was its euphoria frenzy. Everybody was just jumping from one name to the next. Who's the next major runner? Where are the next significant gains? And like I said, it's just this continuous positive feedback cycle where you make profit in one name, you have more money to trade in the next name, and it's just this game of musical chairs.
So for Trust on Monday, if you're watching it closely, obviously you're expecting it to jump up, but is that what would you look for exactly? Like just in the morning, if you're seeing a spike higher than average volume and a 5% gain, is that when a bunch of traders would jump in, or how would you kind of?
Well, we're assuming that a lot of traders are already in it right now because the uplisting news came out days ago. So the early money and the smart money got in on that news coming out. And in my opinion, the buyers of the day of the actual uplisting are going to be either, institutions or hedge funds that don't have access to the OTC market. So if you're trying to trade some of these names on the OTC markets, it's extremely illiquid. And if you're trying to trade with, a couple $1 million, you can't really do it. It's huge risk. And, if you have a $2 million position, you're not going to be able to get out of that position easily. So once you get listed on the higher exchanges, Village Farms instantly saw its highest volume day in the U.S. ever by a long shot. So we're anticipating that potentially there are groups of people or bigger money that does not have access to getting into OTC names. And there's hedge funds that even have, or institutions that even have rules that prevent them from trading OTC stocks or getting into those positions. So once that changes, that opens the doors to bigger money to get in.
And a lot of those American funds, they wouldn't bother with the TSX, or is that? How do you see that?
They would. I'm sure they would. That some would. But it is. I'm sure they get some special treatment as well. But there's currency conversion fees that we need to worry about in the U.S. And there's, like I said, there's probably people that do get in, and that's the smart money that's getting in on the Canadian side of things. But in terms of, looking at what VFF did the first day. We can look at that right here. So we had a huge run up into the first day, and that was yesterday. So the 3 days leading up into the first day, we ran from, about 9:15 up to, we ran 15% before that day even happened, and then we went another 15% that day. So It's just this all out surge of volume coming in and exposure to more capital pools by getting onto these larger exchanges.
Okay, great. We had another name or two we wanted to look at before we skedaddle. What were we? We've gone through a bunch, but C21.
CXXI, C21. So yeah, this is one I'm not very familiar with. If you want to say a word or two about it.
Yeah, they're C21 Investments. They're an American operator trading on the CSE, I believe. You're seeing a lot of chatter about them and different bulletin boards, and they've been on the show. And for me, they're interesting because the market cap is quite low. I think it's it's around $70 million or so, let's say. But their revenue projections are quite high to, I think, potentially eclipse that number. So there's definitely a lot of eyes on that company. At least it feels that way. So it's definitely one I'm looking at. So. I don't know.
So yeah, here it is. It's on the weekly time frame. We hit the all-time low pretty much when everybody was dumping in December, and we can see the bounce the last 9 weeks is correlating with the S&P 500 bounce and the entire sector bouncing. So we can tell that there's that correlation at least. It's part of the group, and we have changed the trend in terms of breaking lower highs and seeing continuation. And this is one of the higher volume weeks in the history of the stock. But this is on the daily time frame. This is the kind of move where we saw end of last week and to start this week, where I would say, oh man, that's a huge move, great gains, but I missed it. But now we're getting this consolidation, and I would much rather be entering on consolidation as opposed to, like you said, not wanting to be chasing into a move. So we're seeing low bear volume. We had the big bull volume on the way up. We have the low bear volume on the consolidation. So it's definitely a setup where I would be looking for a daily higher low to be established somewhere down here in the 130s. So definitely worth watching for this daily uptrend to continue after this big bull move we had to start this week. and I will keep an eye on it from here on out. As like I said, it's a newer name in my repertoire.
Yeah, cool. Awesome as always, Dan. Thanks so much for joining us.
See you next time.
Enjoying the show, everybody? Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram.
Cool. We always like having Charting Man Dan on the show because we learned. Yes.
Are we back?
Yeah, we were back. How's Tiger doing?
Sorry, I'm just looking at the.
How's Tiger doing?
Tiger's doing okay.
That's
Tiger's,
good.
3 under through the first 9 holes here.
Wow. Looking at some of the chatter here in the chat room.
Yes.
There's
People are loving this.
Yeah, especially
Just loving it.
What's his name? Mark Rondo. I'm glad you like us, Mark, and I'm glad you like the job everyone does in the control room. So.
Well, I was going to say, to be fair, these guys, I gave them a compliment at the start of the show. It's Lee and who's the other guy? He's a good guy.
Donald, yeah.
Is it Donald?
They've got Irish accents.
Well, one guy's from Dublin, one guy's from England, but they're both great guys. And what happened there during the interview with Chartman Dan, Fraser was doing something on his computer.
I was Googling you.
Don't Google me. Anyway, and it came up. It came up on the screen, and this character, Mark Rondo, who's seems like, listen.
At least his full name there. Yeah.
One thing about Mark and all the people making these comments about it's sucking in the control room and I suck and you don't know what you're doing. Here's the thing, we get it. Everyone I said to Fraser, I go, I've been getting, praised and criticized for a very long time in the media. And what I realize is everybody commenting, they just want the same thing. Just want to be heard, want to be noticed, want to be happy. So there you go. We've noticed you. Hope you're happy. And I can tell you, there's some really knowledgeable people there. I've been learning some stuff. Yeah. It seems that people that are responding to the Midas letter are way more sophisticated than you and I.
Yeah.
When it comes to investing, we're just here we're just holding down the fort.
Yes,
okay?
Indeed. But one thing I did notice is there's some chatter about the uplisting to the New York Stock Exchange, which CanTrust will be doing, which is interesting because there's two ways of looking at it. It's like you're in the minor leagues, right? And then you play really well and you can get to the big leagues. And that's sort of the same thing as what's happening here. But when you get there, do your stats go up or do they go down?
So you're saying this stock's about to take a leap into a bigger league?
A much bigger league. The New York Stock Exchange compared to, let's say, the Canadian Stock Exchange is
the
huge.
TSX.
There's way more money, and there's a lot of Americans and American firms that they won't invest in things that aren't available to them on their exchanges. They don't want to deal with currency exchange or any of that bullshit. They just want it on their thing, and they've got tons of money, so they need a bigger pool to play in. But what we've seen is some of the stocks, you almost naturally expect a big lift, like, oh, the price is going to go way up. But last year there was a couple listings that went down at first. But what Dan was saying is you look at the more recent history, just in the past couple weeks, we can sort of expect that to happen with CanTrust. Okay. Which is a big company. I've shot there. They're great. They grow a lot of good weed, a lot of different strains. And what do we know about strains? You were telling, you weren't even watching.
Fraser was trying to do this. He said, okay, I'm going to say strains, and that'll be your cue. Don't worry about it.
No, but it's cool. You know about this app that's...
Here's what I can tell you, Midas letter people. Even though I don't know a lot about anything, really. I certainly don't know a lot about investing in cannabis. Although I've held Canopy Growth for a long time. I got in early. I got in at $10. Got out last fall. I took some, what do they call it? I took some...
You sold at the all-time high, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
$71?
I sold it at $71.
So you did better than a shitload of people here.
And by the way, it wasn't for any real good reason other than my advisor said, hey, this thing's on fire. We should take something out. Yeah, so nice. And I also have a private placement cannabis stock as well.
Nice.
I won't tell you about it. But on my show, what I can tell you I do know a lot about is the industry in terms of the people. I've interviewed all kinds of people, whether it's Max at Emblem or Organogram or any number of people. And I came across these people and they became clients of the Humble and Fred show, which is what I do. And I just wanted to pass them on. Now, they're not a publicly traded company, but it is an interesting company in the weed space. It's called Strain Print. And if you're a user as well as an investor, what it is there are thousands of people on strainprint.ca that are sharing their cannabis experience. It's a companion app. Download it, Google Play or wherever, iTunes. And what it is, let's say, a lot of people suffer from migraines and insomnia and other serious illnesses, and they're using cannabis to combat and to make themselves better. And what Strain Print does is it brings all these stories together. So you go to strainprint.ca, you put in your symptoms, and then what it will do is it'll spit out from other people's experiences.
Yeah. If you have an aggregate sort of
huge database. And so let's say you've heard that indica is good for appetite, or a certain sativa is good for depression. Well, you'll be able to find it at strainprint.ca. You'll see other people and what they've been using. And I think it's it's an amazing world we've entered in, and not just from an investment standpoint, but to use your cannabis experience in a different way and find out from others. Listen, man, I've got some
diarrhea.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? I'll tell you who has diarrhea, that Mark Rondo guy. Seriously, Mark, I know you have the shits.
Stop sending us pictures.
No, that's fine. Mark's diarrhea can be solved by going to strainprint.ca. And thank you for listening to this message.
And James's problem right now, like flu and you get the body aches. I'm sure there's stuff like that.
I can tell you, one of my favorite things is golf. Obviously, I'm watching the computer here to see how Tiger's doing. But I've been golfing a long time, and you get inflammation of your elbows and tennis elbows, rotator cuff. My back's bugging me, and it's interesting because I found certain strains of marijuana are better for things like inflammation. You know what? Maybe you just want to find out how much CBD you should use to help you with your hot flashes, like Mark Rondo. Like, Mark's going through the change of life, obviously. So whether it's menopause, or in your case, Mark, menopause, you'll find the amount that people are using. Go to strainprint.ca. I thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Well, what Mark thought of that.
Loving it. So,
are you?
I am.
Do you use marijuana?
Not that often. No, but you know what I did, what I'm going to do more and more of? I actually suffer from brutal hangovers. Not that I
well, there's a cure for that doesn't involve marijuana, Fraser.
Well, I don't know. What is it? Abstinence?
It's called not drinking.
Come on.
Come on, that's crazy talk.
It is crazy talk. No, but...
I sounded a little bit like Regis there for a second. That's crazy.
It was a little Regis-y. But James, I borrowed some, he had CBD, almost like pure CBD, and I did a tincture just under the tongue, and I felt at least 50% better. And if I'm in that situation again, I'll do the exact same thing. And I gotta tell you, that was pretty good.
I'll tell you, and I was teasing Mark about menopause, there are so many applications that CBD is great for, including, now, some of you people who use marijuana. I smoke a little bit. I don't like to have, I don't smoke cigarettes, so I don't like to smoke, but I vape it. And I also do something called shatter. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah, that shit is insane.
It's ridiculous. It's like, the first time I did it, I went blind in my left eye for 3 hours. I'm not even kidding you. I was like, I can't see. Now I love it. The problem with it, though, is sometimes I feel a little bit too high on it. And what I do is I take a little bit of CBD, because I'm not sure if you kids are aware of this, but CBD will take away some of the extreme effects of THC.
They compete or something
exactly, because all marijuana has THC and the cannabinoid, which is the CBD part. But shatter, to give you some perspective, regular high quality flower might be between 18 and 22% THC. Shatter is like doing a line of THC. It's like 85%. And the first time I did it, I did it, and I was like, I felt a buzzing in my neck. And I thought, that's not right. And then I got high instantly, and it was a little overwhelming. I'm used to it now, but every once in a while, if I feel a little bit unstable, if I feel less stable than normal, I have a CBD pen. Just vaporize it. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. See what you're learning here today?
I'm gonna have to invest in that, more of that stuff. You know what it is too, is that Ontario flubbed the legalization so badly that I was just waiting for them to kind of catch up with themselves and be able to deliver a product to you within, I don't know, a week.
Well,
so,
are you still, like, a lot of people are having, like you mentioned, that they're I know we're going to talk about supply as an issue in a second here, but a lot of people were, I'd say, disappointed with the way
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, with the way that the OCS rolled out. But there's lots of other, and I'll tell you one right now, lots of other online ways to get marijuana a lot faster than the OCS.
Yeah, absolutely, but they're like illegal, right? So
what's illegal?
Yeah, what's
this broadcast? Is this broadcast being authorized by anybody?
No, but I mean, so the first time I walked into Organigram's operation in Moncton, New Brunswick,
beautiful.
And I saw these massive buds that were just like incredible. Yeah. I was like, when it's legal, this will be the first thing I get. But then, you know, like I said, it was just all these delays. Things sold out instantly. Yeah. And then I was thinking about it. I'm kind of like you. I wouldn't, and I don't smoke enough to be this tremendous roller connoisseur. So I was thinking, like, you know, maybe a pre-roll would be more my speed.
Every dispensary that ever was sells pre-rolls. By the way, a roller connoisseur, I don't think that's a real thing.
No. But there's people that roll spliffs.
I know. I've seen it, man. I had to roll. So I was away last week. I bought some Island Bud where I was, and I rolled a joint. And my my girlfriend was making fun of me. She goes, "Oh, that joint, it looks like it was done by a monkey." Like, just all kind of. But you know what? I don't. Even when I have flour, I like to vaporize it because I just don't want the smoke.
No, that's fair.
But I will tell you, this Schecter is some next level stuff.
I'm not going to
baby steps, okay?
Yeah, I'm Fraser, not going to touch. Nope.
Fresh-faced little.
No Schecter for this guy.
Yeah, not for a while.
No, but I will get drunk on my ass though.
Good boy.
So with that, we are going to talk about supply versus demand for the legal cannabis sales market, which is sort of up in the air. It's hard to understand. So Liz Haynes went out to find out what some of the biggest players in the space have to say.
Harvest Health and Recreation is a vertically integrated cannabis company with one of the largest footprints in the U.S. It includes cultivation, manufacturing, and retail facilities, construction, real estate, technology, and operational expertise. The company now has licenses in 8 states, with planned expansion into additional states by 2020. Harvest Health Recreation trades on the CSE under the ticker HARV.
From day one, the word cannabis shortage has been in the headlines, and the lack of product has been blamed on a mixed bag of problems, from supply chain and packaging issues to poor planning on the part of government at all levels. National Access Cannabis sells both recreational and medicinal marijuana and has the largest retail footprint in Canada, with 23 stores to date, and they have felt the impact firsthand.
There's a tremendous amount of lost opportunity right now because we are having to say, unfortunately, to our customers, we don't have it. Right? So when you look at the spectrum of what people are asking for today, it's high THC flower, it's pre-rolls, and it's that high CBD oil for more of health and wellness concerns. It's hard to get all of those things, or it's very hard to keep it in stock. We're talking to a variety of licensed producers across Canada, some of them which are small with ambitions to grow big, and of course the other side of the spectrum are the very, very large LPs that right now have massive market caps and great ambitions for square feet of production space. They're telling us, regardless of the size, that production is going to improve. They're going to get more quantity available to diverse markets over time, which means right now they might be only serving 1 or 2 provinces, but because of what they have in their forecast, they're able to expand and provide more across additional provinces.
So what does the shortage mean for the consumer in the long run? Typically, when demand exceeds supply, prices can only go up.
In a shortage, you would expect prices to go up, but that also depends on whether or not the retailer is acting like a normal business. So in the case of, say, Ontario or Quebec, where we've currently got Crown Corporation monopoly on sales, they can choose not to target profit and keep prices competitive with the black market. But for retail stores, if there's a shortage and you can sell out with higher prices, then as a private business, why wouldn't you do that?
We cannot change pricing to deal with that and let's say improve our bottom line, because one, we don't want to gouge customers. You know, that's not the right way to start an industry, start a business, and create a brand reputation.
When asked, Prime Minister Trudeau told the Canadian press he believes that the supply shortage problem will disappear within a year, and industry insiders agree.
We'll see a pivot point, and I believe it will be towards the end of 2019, where enough capacity is coming online to serve the big markets across Canada. And I do hope that the control boards start to pay attention to some of the smaller players as well, because some of them do have products sitting in their vault that is not accounted for at the moment.
What has been accounted for is the fact that there are still a lot of buyers who haven't yet made the switch to purchasing their pot through legal means. Imagine how short retailers would be if they had.
Basically, the level of sales in the legal market is nowhere close to what Statistics Canada estimates our expenditures to be, so there's quite a lot of black market activity still out there.
For Midas Letter Live, I'm Liz West.
Thank you, Liz West.
Yes.
Not Liz Haynes.
Liz.
I am now here with Howard Glassman.
Howard Glassman.
Yes.
I see. Mark Rondo got what he wanted, which was to be noticed, and everyone else, by the way. Thanks for. Oh, someone says bring back Ed's night. Is she on now, or that's where we're in delay? Someone says bring back Ed's night party with Humble. Everything 90s is in again. It will be a hit. I was the host of Ed's Night Party for about 2.5 years on City TV in the middle 90s. Ed's hilarious. In fact, Ed the Sock is who we're talking about. He's got the War on Stupid tour, whatever. Go check it out. It's really, really funny.
Yeah, that was sort of revolutionary almost.
Kinda. It was weird.
I think it spurred on maybe Triumph the Insult Comedy Dog.
Well, there's always been a little bit of whatever. There's been a bit of an issue with Ed, who thinks that Triumph ripped him off.
Yeah.
And the guy that does Triumph is a stand-up comic, very funny.
Oh yeah.
In fact, he's been on Stern a bunch of times. Anyway, welcome everyone. This is the Midas Letter. Fraser's the host. I'm just hanging out. You can check me out at humbleandfredradio.com for you people on the chat there trying to figure out what I'm doing. I'm just hanging out. I'm big interest in cannabis, obviously. I was just telling Fraser that 3 years ago I stopped drinking, and basically I'd always smoked weed a little bit, but sort of exchanged alcohol for marijuana. I've never felt better. Although I will say this, someone asked me, how did you know you had a drinking issue? And here was very simple. One day I was having a glass of red wine, and I thought, what would go great with this? And the answer I came up with was vodka. And I went, oh, maybe now, because I didn't think, because the wine wasn't strong enough anymore.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But shatter is just...
Shatter's ridiculous.
Yeah. But
there's a bunch of people saying that shatter, they heard that shatter can...
Will destroy you. Melt your face.
Here's the thing. After shatter, there's only one level up, and that's dabs. Do you know what a dab is? You ever heard of it?
Yeah. Isn't it 100%?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have to have a blowtorch to do it. You need to have a welding mask on. Wow. I was working at there's a bunch of comedy clubs around Toronto, and I'm sure around the country too, but they're called weed rooms.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I've been to one.
Oh, and I've done stand-up. There's one, the best one is in the east end of Toronto. It's called the Comedy Underground.
That's where I lived. I lived there, and my buddy took me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was just there a few weeks ago. I performed there regularly. And what they were rooms that it was sort of a bit of a gray area in terms of smoking weed. You became sort of a member of the club, and you could smoke your weed inside even though they weren't selling weed. But there was another weed room I did in Brampton in this strip mall. Very, very sketchy, but fun. I go in there, 40 people, and all these young kids, middle 20 kids, with their rigs. and the guys open up their little thing and bring out the blowtorch, and I'm like, what is going on here? And they're doing these dabs. They warm them up with the blowtorch, and then they huff them through these apparati. And I will tell you, folks, you're going to the hospital. Both your eyes just gone.
It's like that movie Bird Box. They just like they've seen. That's it, right?
Bird Box. That's where we. Don't get me started on Bird Box. When that movie came out, just so you know, 45 million people on Netflix watched that movie, Fraser. At the same time, we were all watching Bird Box, and people were putting blindfolds on and walking into traffic in North America. The Chinese landed a thing on the moon. Okay, that's why they're in charge. Over to you, Fraser.
I'm just noticing the chatter here about MPX. So I can talk about this a little bit because I owned MPX. I liked MPX. I still, Scott Boys, the whole thing. I have Ianthus shares now and MPXI shares, as all of you former MPX shareholders should have now. So I hope that's the case. I don't know what the confusion is. I noticed somebody mentioned, oh, I have Ianthus, what happens? Nothing happens. You just have Ianthus, that's it. So you should have got 0.167 Ianthus shares per MPX share, and then I think 1 out of every 100 is MPXI. So you didn't get a lot of MPXI, but it's like a free little gift. Like, here you go. There you go.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Is it blooper time?
It's blooper time.
It's blooper time. No?
Oh no, we're looking for.
We're out of time.
Hold. We're going to tell you what's coming up on Monday.
Okay.
Next week, we are talking to TransCanada Holdings CEO Jim Paculus, New CanTrust CFO Greg Guyette, and T-God CEO Brian Anthade. Well, that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So join us again 3 p.m. next Monday.
All right. So now no bloopers. We're just going to shut this thing down.
I think this is a blooper. It's constantly a blooper.
I enjoyed this. Thank you for having me.
I enjoyed it. Can we do a little fist bump like that? There you go. Thanks everybody. Join us next week, Monday 3 p.m. Here's some bloopers.
How was your vacation? Oh, it was me who was on vacation. It was fine. Thank you very much for asking. It takes this many people to make me look coherent and intelligent.
Well, you need. Listen,
bottom line.
No offense. You might want to get a few more people.
I don't like the idea of having to ask permission from Health Canada for anything.
Well, that's the essence of law. It was voted best business dude of the year in some capacity.
He's the guy that got best business dude.
Best business dude. Business Hall of Fame. Fire. Fire and flower. No, we know Trevor.
When I'm serious about something,
yes,
I'm going to put my 7-Eleven glasses on.
Okay. That's a buy. Best cannabis investment idea of the day.
Well, that certainly put me in the spot.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this was going to happen. He's smarter than all of us. Oh no!
How'd you enjoy that pile of shit I just threw out there?
Just saying. I have to do it. Just saying. How about that?
Oh yeah, we could have fun with that all day long.
Is it me? Did I throw you off your schedule?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a...
I got lots of questions.
I think... yes, we did throw you off the schedule. Okay.
So I didn't mean to. Like, I was just sitting here.
That day will come. I just hope it's while I'm still alive. Not that things being illegal ever slowed me down.
Yeah.
Cam is good people.
He's good peeps, man.
I've caught on to the show now. You're supposed to yell.
There's a long, funny story there that I'm not going to share with this audience because it's too long and it's way too funny.
This idiot in Montreal while I was going to school there, his name's Jonah.
Uh-oh.
And, yeah. Fuck you, Jonah.
I'm online. But we'll see you all later.